Hey gamers, this is Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing Pax Pamir 2nd Edition, designed by Cole Wehrle and published by Whirligig Games. A game of Pax Pamir is mostly fought out on this map, which represents Afghanistan in the 1820s after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. You represent someone who has political power in the area and who wants to keep it and perhaps gain more. Part of what you'll be doing is balancing your loyalties between the powers that are fighting over the region. So, will you be loyal to Afghanistan itself? Will you side with the Russians? Or will you side with the British? And one of the interesting aspects of the game is that you get to change that loyalty depending on the cards that you play anytime you want. To win the game, you either have to have a commanding lead by being 4 or more points ahead of all other players at the end of a dominance check, or you have to have the most points after the final dominance check of the game. Points are scored in 2 different ways depending on how the different powers who are fighting over the map are distributed when you do what's called a dominance check. The first way to score points during a dominance check, and the most straightforward, is to be part of a faction that has dominance at the point of the dominance check. And dominance is determined basically by how many colored blocks are out on the board in relationship to all the other empires' blocks. So for example, here we have Russia, which is yellow with 8 blocks out, 3 for Afghanistan, and 4 for Britain. Russia would be dominant in this situation because they have 4 blocks more than any other power that's on the map. Therefore, the players who have sided with Russia would decide who has the most influence with them, and then assign themselves points of varying amounts based on their degree of closeness with the Russian Empire at the time of the dominance check. If, however, Russia does not manage to be dominant over the area, then there's another way that is possible to score points, and that is by how many player cylinders are off of the player mats. Cylinders can be put out on the map in the form of player tribes, and players can actually control different areas of the map depending on the number of tribes they have out and their loyalty to the empire that dominates that region, or the cylinders can be used in a number of other ways. They can be placed on your loyalty dial as gifts of varying amounts. So if you want to show that you have influence with the British Empire, you can actually pay to put cylinders out, or they can even be placed on other people's cards or your own as spies. So there are a number of ways to deploy your cylinders to be useful during the game. Off of the map, your main focus is going to be the cards both on the market, which is displayed here, and in your court. On the market, you'll be able to buy from 2 different rows, and the cost of the cards depends on their position in the row. So this one would cost you 5 coins, but this one costs you 0. The cards on the far right end of the market row shift down as the ones on the left side are purchased, which means that you can try to risk waiting for a desirable card to get close to you, or you can decide to pay more and get it right away. While the map is both very beautiful and reflective of the things that you've done in the game, it's the cards where the real action is. Every time you purchase a card, you get to take the actions in the top right corner, so in this case you'd be putting out 2 roads, putting a cylinder on somebody's card as a spy, and adjusting the favored suit. So different suits will give you different bonus actions in the game, so it can be worth it. Meanwhile, a card like this will let you put out an army, and this card will let you put tribes in Persia. You also need to pay attention to the card's region because that affects what you can do with the card. And you'll also notice that the cards have little actions at the bottom as well. You only get 2 actions per turn in a game of Pax Pamir, and at the start, pretty much all you can do is purchase cards and play them. However, as you have more cards show up in your tableau, you're going to get the option to march your armies, to betray spies, to tax and collect money, to build, and to give gifts. So there are so many things to do in the game. There are very limited opportunities to do everything that you want to do, and you're going to need to make sure that your tableau has cards with the right variety of actions to get you what you need. The result of all of this is a game where your decisions matter a lot, because even though you can only do a limited number of things, you're going to have to make very tense choices about which things you choose. In addition to these more normal cards, you also shuffle in event cards that can really impact the game, and most scarily, dominance checks. Dominance checks are fascinating because you will eventually have to resolve them, but the question is, when do you want to get them off the market? If you think that you are going to be able to win a dominance check, you might scramble to purchase one. If you are concerned and you want to buy yourself some more time, you may be fighting to prevent other people from doing the same thing. While the multiplayer game of Pax Pamir is fabulous, you can also play an excellent solo game against Wakan. She's an AI deck, and she is a terrifying opponent in the game. Rather than have an actual loyalty to a specific empire at any time, Wakan has what's called pragmatic loyalty. She is essentially loyal to all factions and represents sort of a radicalizing movement in the area that spreads independently of any government control. Just like you, Wakan is able to offer gifts to different empires, and she's going to play with some specific strategic priorities that are detailed on her cards. The other thing that's fascinating is that there's a small AI deck that does a shocking amount of damage to you in the game. Each turn for Wakan, you're going to draw one of the AI cards and place it so that it's next to the deck of AI cards. That way you can see where the arrows on it are pointing. Wakan's cards are going to give you, in a priority order, actions that she could take based on what's on the card. And your job is to look at the money she has, look at the abilities that she has on her cards, and do those actions as she is able. Wakan does have to buy cards just like you. She has to spend money just like you, but she is able to kind of get her engine going faster than you are. And that's thanks to this radicalized movement here. So it's 2 actions for a normal player to buy a card and then play a card. But when Wakan radicalizes a card, she basically is able to buy and play it all in one action. So no matter what you do, she's going to be growing and becoming more powerful with every turn. Her AI cards are also going to tell you which of the empires she's going to be loyal to. So basically it's the one furthest to left that you're not loyal to at the moment. And you're going to know where she's going to buy. Is she going to buy from the top row or the bottom row? So basically between the fronts and backs of the Wakan cards, you are given an entire set of priorities for an enemy that is a lot smarter than you would expect an AI to be. And the radicalized action really helps to balance out the fact that she's not a human player and can't play with full human strategy. Because even if she can't, she's still able to outdo you in terms of strength. Although you might need to have the rulebook with you for the first couple of times that you play, the fact is that this is a brilliant little AI to play against, and as a solo player, I'm very satisfied with how the solo mode for Pax Pamir has turned out. So with that little spoiler, let's go into some final thoughts. While I'm primarily reviewing the solo mode, I should say here that I really like Pax Pamir in general. What makes the game amazing is that you have very limited actions each turn, and yet the strategies that you can pursue from turn to turn are very deep, very complicated, and overall the game itself is very satisfying. There's a lot of complexity to deciding where to put spies, whether to betray, whether to battle, whether you should side with one empire or another, and when you should change the loyalties that you've already decided on. Every single decision you make in the game can have long-running consequences, for better or for worse, and learning how to play the game well is an experience that I'm finding very interesting, and that's a continuing one for me. I'm also very happy with how Wakan, the solo mode, turned out. I should say that it's designed by Ricky Royal, so it's no surprise that a solo enthusiast has designed an excellent solo mode for a game. But I'm really impressed with how well Wakan does as an extra player in a game that's actually very complicated and that with human opponents involves a lot of deep strategy. What makes me happiest about the AI deck is that Wakan is both low maintenance and really, really difficult to play against. So it's just a matter of flipping a card and looking at Wakan's potential actions until you've done 2 of them, which may take a minute depending on how developed the game state is, but is still fairly streamlined. And within the few actions that she does per turn, Wakan is a very challenging opponent. The priority list that Ricky Royal has given her makes her do things that really actively impede you in the game and that give you a very serious challenge to work with, so that even though she's not human, she can really give you a run for your money as a solo player. And that's exactly what I'd be looking for in a solo mode for a game like this. My only concern about the solo mode for Pax Pamir is that it does take a little bit of a learning curve. Wakan feels a little bit finicky at first, especially if you are both learning the rules for yourself and learning the rules for her. And sometimes the things that she does, even though she has a fairly clear list of priorities, seem slightly erratic. So there will be games where she behaves in ways that make less strategic sense than others. However, that said, even a game where Wakan isn't at her best is a real challenge to win. And I think that overall it's really the peak of what the solo mode for a normally highly interactive game can be. I've played against Wakan several times. I've enjoyed every single play. And one thing I like about Pax Pamir in general and playing with Wakan is that every single game is a little bit different, which means that I'm getting a fresh experience every single time Pax Pamir hits the table. If this game sounds like your sort of thing, I highly recommend that you check out Pax Pamir, 2nd edition. Happy gaming.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.